Hello.
Hello.
It's all about love.
Yep.
And we're going to continue with the
Philia. Yes.
Love. And we're going to start off with a verse in the Bible that uses the word fervent. Fervent. I know.
It's a fun word.
I know it is a fun word. And I've even been looking at a book that talks about fervent. And it's talking about fervent prayer. But this is different than prayer. This is fervent love. And you think of eros. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay. You think of that being passionate, right? But the definition of fervent is, let me see if I think I have it right here because I'm afraid I was mess it up, but having or displaying a passionate intensity. And that has to do with philia, right? Yeah. And that has to do with brotherly love. And that's not meaning brotherly like brothers, but it's like relationships.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So one of the verses that popped up in us looking had to do in Romans, and it talks, and this says, let's see, it talks about being a Christian and how you're supposed to live your life and what you're supposed to do, and so this is in chapter 12 of Romans, and I'm going to start with verse 9. I think I'm going to go through 11, and it says, "Let love be without hypocrisy." Hypocrisy means don't let it be false, right? Yeah, don't let it be like
two-faced.
Sugarcoat it and then walk away and talk about somebody. Right? So, let love be without hypocrisy, detest evil, cling to what is good, love one another deeply as brothers and sisters. This is one part I like. Outdo one another in showing honor. Outdo each other, you know? And that's interesting. And do not lack diligence in zeal. Be fervent in the Spirit. So, to me, that's saying, when I think of the definition, having or displaying a passionate intensity, and that intensity comes through the Spirit to show love. Don't you think?
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, we definitely can't show the kind of love that God wants us to without the Spirit.
Oh no, because sometimes we don't want it. Sometimes it don't feel like love. You know what I mean? Maybe you're in a bad mood. It's not the person you're talking to. It's just you, or you're overloaded with your own cares that you should be giving to Jesus. But sometimes life just gets like that.
Yeah, and sometimes those block you from acting in love.
So sometimes even in just your own worries or your own deepest thoughts or busy lives. We allow that, but he tells us to be fervent in the Spirit, so we got to use that to show love. So I like that. So we have some examples, and Jen is going to show you or tell you about some examples in the Old Testament, because it wasn't just the New Testament that had brotherly love. You know,
we have all throughout.
That's right. Throughout the whole Bible, it tells us about love. So I'm going to let you take off on that from the Old Testament and share.
Yeah, so honestly, the first story that came to my mind when we were talking about brotherly love and Philia was David and Jonathan.
Absolutely.
Like they were the best of friends,
Unlikely friends.
Very very God-ordained friends.
Yeah, being that his dad wanted to kill him. It wasn't kind of,
So yes, David was at this point, he had just defeated Goliath. And right after, in 1 Samuel 18, 1 Samuel 18 verses 1 through 5, it says that as soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, David had finished speaking to Saul, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. And Saul took him that day and would not let him return to his father's house. So they were like, "Okay, David, you're coming to live with us.
You're my friend.
Yep, you get to be with us.
You get to be my brother."
Yeah. And then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David, and his armor, and even his sword, and his bow, and his belt. And David went out and was successful wherever Saul sent him, so that Saul sent him over the men of war. And this was good in the sight of all the people, and also in the sight of Saul's servants. So, you have little baby David, and he's destroyed Goliath. And, well, maybe not baby, but we definitely talked about him being like early 20s,
and not of this
later.
major stature.
Yes, not a very kingly stature.
Well, nobody thought, even, was it Samuel that
Yes.
picked him as king?
Yes.
Or he was like,
Yeah,
none of these strong guys.
Yeah.
You know,
Are you sure, God?
Are you sure, God? This little guy that comes out of the shepherd's field, he's the one.
But yeah, so, and then after Goliath, Jonathan's just like, hey, I want you to be like my best friend, like almost literally my brother,
Yeah, and they said their souls knit together. Mm-hmm. Wow, I mean, that's pretty. And also I wanted to mention, you said covenant. That is unbreakable. A covenant. A contract, breakable. Yeah. There's a clause usually about how to break it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or some consequences, a loophole. Yeah. A covenant is serious business. Yeah. That is a promise that is between two people that is not broken.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it gets mentioned later. But we have, right after that I mentioned that, Saul sent David out. Yeah. Well, Saul started getting jealous when the ladies were like, Saul's killed his thousands, David kills his tens of thousands. Yeah. So he's like, well, why don't they mention all the people that I've done? Like, I've killed and all that stuff. And so it gets to a point where in 1 Samuel 20, David's asking Jonathan, like, why is your father wanting to try to kill me? Yeah. And Jonathan's like, what do you mean? My father's not trying to kill you. And David's like, yeah, okay, sure. Let's see about this. Yeah. So like, just this brotherly love of like, okay, you're calling out my father. And I'm like, no, but I'll still listen to you. I don't
think so. Yeah.
He was like, I'll still listen to you.
Right.
And give this opportunity. So they concoct a plan. They were supposed to have this big feast. And David was, it was said that, Jonathan said, oh yeah, David, he's going to go sacrifice with his family. Mm-hmm. And David was like, okay, if he's angry at that, then obviously he wants to kill me. If he's not, then, everything I feel is just feelings.
It's just feelings, yeah.
And so Jonathan tells him that, and Saul is like, where is this David, and why isn't he here?
Outraged.
I'll go have him, killed, and, I'm sure that was really heart-wrenching for Jonathan. Yeah. Because while he's the son of his father,
yes,
but, he made this covenant with David. Yeah. And he knew that bond was just so much greater than the bond that he was born into. Yeah. And so they made this little plan of like, okay, I'm going to go shoot arrows. If I say this, then yes, Saul is angry at you. If I say this, you're good to go. Yeah. But obviously Saul was mad.
Yeah. And so the signal came. Yeah. And he knew. He knew. Yeah.
Yeah, so we get to the end of that a little bit, and, Jonathan helps him basically run away. And so at the end of Samuel 20 and 24, in 2042, then Jonathan said to David, go in peace, because we have sworn both of us in the name of the Lord, saying the Lord shall be between me and you, and between my offspring and your offspring forever. And he rose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city. So they had made this covenant that...
Unbreakable.
A
bond.
Bond together, and that affected their descendants.
Yes,
so they were supposed to be protective of each other's descendants. If they had a chance to, kill them, they wouldn't. Yeah. So, like, the brotherly bond can just go so deep into the future, and... honestly.
It did. Yeah. It did go into the future.
It really did.
It did. Yeah. That's another story.
Okay, yeah.
If you want to read on, you can find it.
Yeah, no, and it's great, but, just seeing the respect that they had for each other, and the willingness for Jonathan to put his life on the line, really, to help him and to escape, but, they made the covenant before the Lord, and, that was...
It's like, blood brothers, what I mean? And they were soul brothers,
yeah, exactly.
And then we're going to look at someone that's completely different. It's not even,
Yeah. So
Job.
Job,
another story. Yeah.
So yes, if you don't know the story of Job, definitely go look at the book. he suffered immense loss.
Yes.
And you can read and find out why. But the greatest thing is that he had these 3 friends who who they hold on.
You want to start back at Job?
Yeah.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
So then we have another one in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And that's Job, and he has the book.
Yes.
Job.
Yes, he does. So
His
if you want to know
is there.
all about it, like definitely dive into it.
Yes.
But little bit of story, like he lost everything. And he has these 3 friends that end up coming to him. And I think it's just a testament to what good friendship can be.
Yeah.
Is that in, where do I have it? 2:11 through 13.
Mm-hmm.
So this is after he's already lost everything. So it says, now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that had come upon him, they came each from his own place. And they made an appointment together to come to show him sympathy and comfort him. And when they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him. And they raised their voices and wept. And they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads towards heaven. And they sat with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights.
Mm-hmm.
And no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great.
Yeah.
So this initial reaction from his friends
Yeah.
was just, I'm going to mourn and just sit in it with you.
I'm gonna sit right there with you.
Yeah.
However you need to be or whatever you need to say, I'm here for you.
Yeah. If some of their advice later on
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily...
Read on, and it's a little iffy.
A little gray, yeah.
But initially they were there.
Yeah.
They were there. And he
And that's
lost
a true-
everything but his wife.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
His whole livelihood, really, this livestock, his family, his children, their families, and so...
Yeah, so they weren't in it for any money or,
No.
you know...
couldn't get a thing out of it.
Status or whatever, but they really cared about what he was going through. They saw
Right.
the torment that he was going through.
And isn't that the kind of friend that we would want? One that will sit through it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then,
And
then
you
we
have some New Testament.
I do. I have Jesus, right? And Jesus, and
best
such a
example.
great example of love. And the first one had to do with Lazarus. I always want to say Lazarus, but it's Lazarus.
Yes.
And his sisters, Mary and Martha.
Yeah.
But he loved this family. The word says he loved the family, and he loved them. They were like friends. They were friends. And people recognized their love, I think, because of when Lazarus got sick, and they sent word for Jesus to come, you know. And when he came, he didn't come in the timely manner they wanted to, but there was a purpose in that, and that's another Bible lesson.
Yeah.
But he came, and he did heal. He did heal him, but it was emotional to him. And there's been many reasons why they say that, you know, he wept. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, he was close. It was like Jonathan and David. Yeah. They were close. Yeah. They were friends. They were. I'm not sure how all that built up. I don't recall if there was an explanation of how that relationship grew and how it built up. It could, I don't know, but they loved him. Mm-hmm. They adored him. Mm-hmm. And they thought for sure that he could come. They believed in him. They had faith in him. Mm-hmm. But he chose to wait and allow God to be glorified in Lazarus being raised from the dead. Yeah. But he was a friend, and this is what I call it. It was an emotional expression of love. Oh yeah. In my mind, because so the sisters. This is in John 11, and it says, so the sisters sent a message to Jesus, Lord, look, the one you love is sick, and he's talking about Lazarus, you know, and then it goes on to say in 11:36, thus the people who had come to mourn, because Jesus didn't come. When Jesus did come, both Mary and Martha were a little bit, mouthy. And if he would have come, he wouldn't have died, Mm-hmm. But Jesus did this. He said, but Jesus did raise him from the dead. But it says, thus the people who had come to mourn, because people came and mourned. That was part of the tradition. You mourned with the people. Look how much he loved him. It was because they saw tears. Yeah. And he was human. Yeah.
He was in a human body.
That's right.
Like,
he was in flesh.
He experienced feelings, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to feel things.
Yeah.
That's not, it's when we sit in our feelings
Yes.
and let it overwhelm us that, you know, that
becomes too much.
It becomes way too much.
Yeah, way too much.
But yeah, the fact that even Jesus showed that, like, deep filial love. Yeah. Just weeping for his lost
family. Yeah. And there's different reasons. They talk about, they discuss about the different reasons for the tears, but I think it's real emotion. Oh. I think it's an emotional love through what I researched in.
I think so too.
I think so. That's what I'm going to say. And then we have Jesus in John 13:1, and it says, just before the Passover feast, Jesus knew that his time had come to depart from this world to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he now loved them to the very end. And what he did, he said that he came to serve, not to be served. Mm-hmm. And he took off his wrap or whatever it was, and he washed the disciples' feet. Yeah. All of the disciples, even the one that would eventually betray him. Yeah. So, and I felt like that was an expression of physical love. Oh, yeah. For another person. And there were many years ago, I did a mission trip, and we had discussed doing that with these girls in the camp. Mm-hmm. And so we decided, the other teacher and I, we said, okay, if God calls us to that, we will do it. Mm-hmm. We'll see how it goes. Because, sometimes you can't just plan. You can plan it, but if it's not right, it's not right.
Don't force it. Yeah.
That's right. And so when it came to that spot, we were able to wash their feet. Those girls wept. Yeah. Because in the instance, we also told them how much we loved them, mm-hmm. and cared for them and prayed for them. And we prayed a prayer over them, mm-hmm. and we washed their feet. And humbling to us, when they all left, we both just laid on the floor just in tears, because it was just overwhelming. Yeah. The feeling in a good way. Yeah. And so the first time somebody did that to me, it was overwhelming to me as well. But that was an expression of physical love to me. Yeah. When Jesus did that. And so, there's all kinds of expression, sitting with your friends and holding their hand. Mm-hmm.
Helping them to escape.
Helping them to escape when someone is after them. Be there for them, in a sense, no matter what. And
cry over them.
Cry over them. Have emotion over them. Feel their feelings, feel their hurt, their pain. Yeah. And then to serve someone. Yeah. Serve them with a love that is completely love. Yeah.
Very selfless.
Very selfless, yeah. So, Philia. Yeah. Love.
Philia?
Philia love.
Sounds
you feel
good.
some love? I feel some love.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's kind of wraps it up on Philia love. And I think, do we have another one? Oh, we do have one more.
Agape.
Ooh, agape. And that's God's love, isn't it?
Yes, that is God's love that we definitely strive for. Yeah. It's definitely, I feel like the hardest for us to show. It's the unconditional, so.
Yeah. He shows it very well.
Oh,
we don't always do very well with that, but we're going to find some spots.
We will.
So, listen, you guys have a great week, and we're so glad that we were able to bring some love to you. And so now you in turn go share some love.
Yep. Go share some love, yeah.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.